Hi, welcome to Ignite Podcast. We accept each other. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we are glad that you are here with us this week, tuning in. And today we have a topic that we have been eager to talk about, right, guys?
What is that?
Today we're going to talk about serving.
But before we really jump into that, or just to give everyone what we feel that the definition is about on the serving itself, why not each of us we just share what is your first impression that you have when you heard the words serving in the church, or when you're in a youth group, or in any group that you are in the church itself? Victor, you want to start first?
Okay, Victor, start first.
Alright, so when we talk about why, when we use the word serve, usually associate with food. And if you ask me about my first impression, being a very young kid in the church, at the time I thought it is for people who serve food. Yeah, as simple as that.
Really?
Really? In church as well?
I was a kid.
How old? How old back then?
5, 6.
Back then your church got a lot of food, right?
No, because everyone was doing a lot of things in the church and they never term it specifically or use the word serving in specific.
Okay.
They already say about we are in the worship team, the usher team and stuff like that. So the very first time, maybe if I'm not wrong, when people mention the word serving, and I thought it was like we're going to serve food in the church and they're looking for someone to serve the food. So yeah, that was
Now
my
I
first
see.
impression.
I
From
see.
your belly, I see.
Wow.
Speaking from my experience, before I was a Christian, when I was I was introduced to the church, right? When I heard about the word serving, the first thing in my mind is that, hey, that means you work without getting paid. That is my understanding, which I don't think is that far away, if you ask me. Right? Do you think so?
Is it a cheap labor thing? Or?
It's not cheap labor, because cheap labor is still get paid. It's free labor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what I think.
For me, the impression that I got on the serving when I in the church during the youth time, right? For me, serving is it's a very holy thing, because it's like a monk working in the temple, usually helping those temple to clean stuff. It's like you are serving in the very holy ground. You're doing some holy works in the church context.
Why would you have the inclination to serve them?
That time, actually, I wasn't a Christian yet, but there are a lot of needs back then.
You are young, or you know what is needs, man?
Because no people there, no people playing that particular instrument. That's why that's how
music instrument.
Music instrument. I was started serve in the bass. It's a bassist. Right. When you heard about serving, right, you will feel somehow not a very positive one. I was very surprised when you heard that. When I know some new friends or new to the Christianity, or they just become a new Christian, right? When they come to church, they are very happy and joyful to be part of a team, to be a volunteer, to serve in any ways. But after 5 to 10 years, right, when you heard about people asking a question, do you want to serve this position or not? You will immediately, all the defense comes in, and it brings you more negative energy compared to the first time that you're able to contribute to this community. So that is where we can, what went wrong? What happened?
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that as Christians in the community serve long enough, they experience certain kind of burnout or over serving.
Part of it, correct.
And then they start to drop off from their position.
Yes, and then started to think, is serving a really
so
good thing?
It's become a bit pointless and repetitive,
Yes,
you're saying.
yes.
So this is why we're talking about this today.
Correct.
We are trying to talk about is there a negative connotation in the understanding of serving today?
Yep.
We certainly feel that in our church, don't we?
I think definitely we'll go through in your serving journey if
More or less.
More or less.
I mean, no one
Long-
can
if
escape
you long enough,
this
yep.
phenomenon, right? I think.
you will definitely hit one day once you see that the limitation started comes in, and when you're long enough in the same ministry or with a similar community, 10 years or 20 years.
Okay.
But I think this is not dependent on the duration of serving. We can also see some churches where people are more encouraged to serve as the longer they are serving in the church. So I think today we are going to zoom and talk into the reasons why in certain communities or certain setups or certain churches that over time serving became a burden.
Okay. Okay.
Rather than generalizing that all church or serving is like that, there are of course churches that has given the right vibe environment, and people are even more encouraged to serve to different heights, different levels, different experiences. So we want to see what is the difference between that white and the white that a lot of churches are experiencing, the issue of burnout from serving.
Ah, okay.
I heard a lot of white from Victor. Okay.
Sorry, what I want to to intrude a bit. What as in WIPE or
BE or PIPE?
VIBE.
VIBE? Oh,
Not wiping. Okay.
good vibes only.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
What good vibes? Okay. We'll talk about that later. So why not you hear from like how do you define if people ask you to explain what serving means in church, how will you say that?
With our experience right now.
With your experience and your experience, your study and your everything, like what would you explain in a very simple way? Maybe Alex first?
In a very simple way means still you work without getting paid.
Yeah.
But I think the more but I think what I
Sometimes you got food lah.
yeah. But what I learned along the days is that you are willing and you want to do it. You want to contribute. I think the word is contributing. You are willing to contribute towards a certain cause, a certain we call it ministry in church, but basically a area that you can be of use. This is what I think serving to me is.
Okay.
Whether in a big or small
Oh,
capacity.
did you? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Okay. Why you laugh?
No, it's okay.
Today, Victor very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because he wearing his
Okay, let's not go to my shirt. All right. Anyway,
spec.
so I want to interfere. There's of course a lot of things that Alex mentioned that I agree, but one thing that I want to expound upon is that serving can also be paid. It's not only volunteerism.
Okay.
I just watched another.
Movie.
I wouldn't say the podcast is a talk by worship leaders everywhere.
I see.
And there was this one worship leader that mentioned that it is common in the Australian region where all the worship leaders are volunteers. Even though they might be paid working in the church, but when they are worship leading in the service, it is actually seen as a volunteer above their usual working hours, and they are not supposed to be deemed to be paid to lead worship. But in the American continent, it is a common practice where they pay the worship leader per session they lead.
Wow.
So it's two different cultures. And of course, this whole talk was among a few worship leaders, and they were debating. I won't say debating, they were just sharing opinions on which is actually the better way. And both has their pros and cons.
Okay. But how would you define it?
And if you ask me, the easiest way to define serving in the church context is this: you do what needs to be done to further God's kingdom.
Okay.
That's a very
We
ambitious...
debate later, but can you repeat again?
Yeah, you do what needs to be done to further God's kingdom.
That's
Okay.
a very, very ambitious...
Yeah.
I mean, like Jesus has this great commission, asks us to go and make disciples of all nations.
Okay.
That is furthering God's kingdom. So we just need to do what needs to be done to make sure we can go and make disciples of all nations. So that is serving. So if it talks about you need a church band to attract people in to listen to the gospel, by all means, you'll be a basis. But then if that chair being not arranged in the church is going to disrupt some OCD people and take their focus away from the sermon because they
What
will
is
just be
OCD?
focused. Obsessive compulsive behavior, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if they are going to
Disorder.
be stuck there looking at the chair during the sermon, not focusing on the sermon because just that particular chair is not arranged properly and it takes them off, then a simple act of rearranging that chair is serving because you're contributing to spreading the gospel,
Okay.
not directly, but in that context.
Yeah. Serving is a form of worship. And not only that, also a worship to God, and also a form of loving God and loving others through the serving itself. Whether it's inside the church or outside church, we'll continue carrying out loving God and loving people, our neighbors, as a form of responding toward God lah. This is my general definition. But we can comment on this definition. I think Alex has asked about. It's a very ambitious. It sounds like our action have that ability to extend God's kingdom, and if we don't do it, the extension of God's kingdom will be slowed down. Is that how you feel just now?
Well, I I don't think that is the case
Okay.
because
The case of what?
I mean, in objectivity wise, of course, I can't say that if we don't do anything, the kingdom of God will stop because of us. But why I commented Victor's, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's very ambitious because it can be anything that you do, right?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah, because I'm a very simple-minded man. I'm thinking of very small things.
Really?
Like I say, no one sweep the floor, then I sweep the floor, it's okay, mama.
No one clean the toilet.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, sweeping the floor is to a point because in our church we used to have this porch and the tiles was actually indoor tiles. It's not the outdoor tiles. So it's not very friendly towards water. And somehow or other, the message wasn't received, and it was raining. People were driving into that porch area to drop off people.
Okay.
There were spots of water. And what happened was a member actually had an accident, fell down because of the water. And that member had a very big reaction towards the church. To a point, it actually took counselings to, release the hurt, that rejection, to convince the person, So, again, sweeping the floor might look trivial sometimes to us, but we do not know how it actually affects the whole thing. And again, we believe that God is in control of everything. All experiences is allowed by the Lord.
No.
But then I would say, if, let's say, we could minimize all this, chances are the experience of a person in church will be better. And because of a better experience, they might be more open-hearted. Unless God has his other ways to do things, then that's not for us
I
to
agree,
comment.
I agree.
Okay.
No, I agree.
Since Victor is sharing through one of the experience, why not we give you share also what is the good experience you had in your past serving experience, and you can also definitely share what you were serving in the past, like in a very summative way. Maybe start with Victor first, since you brought up the
Good experience.
You can share like what have you been serving in your past
All right.
10 years?
I started off as a youth cell intern, which is not doing any job at all, just having a name for many years. Then the very first time I really got involved was to be a youth camp group leader at that time. And a funny story is that no one know me in church, but they all know my brother, who was very active in another church. And the churches are related. So somehow I was identified as a group leader, and that was when I started serving, making sure people are waking up, organizing things in the camp. Then one thing led to the other. I was, the subsequent years, serving as a whole regional church gathering. We call it a diocese gathering, a diocese youth camp. I was doing the game master. And I had no idea how to plan games. But it was a fun experience because
You feel good lah.
regardless of how much you plan or prepare for something, things do not go as well. But you see the support that you get not only from top management, which is the church pastors, but also amongst peers that are serving together. And when the people joining camp saw how much effort is placed in and how much you guys are rushing against time, they also volunteered to help. So that was considered a good experience.
Okay.
Yeah, later on I was an usher for a lot of years, man. I think 14 years, 16 years.
14 years as an usher.
14 to 16 years in FCC.
Half of my age.
16 years, sorry, 16 years in
16
FCC.
years as an usher.
Really half
Yeah,
of my age now.
so
Okay.
yeah, there are a lot of good times and bad times, struggling times and happy times.
Okay, we will talk about one of the struggle one, but we want to hear from our Yap Lek Kang.
I started as a driver.
It's a good experience. You feel good about
You
that.
say driver is not good experience, huh?
Yeah, come on.
I just say that I
You
started as a
feel,
driver.
your impression is like
So you pull handbrake,
Then you see you judge me already. I feel
I
offended.
not judge. I just ask
you
clarify.
pull handbrake or you step on the brake and accelerator at the same
the
time.
piao piao like that.
Piao piao.
You drove a van, right?
No, my car. And I know why I was selected to be a driver. You know why?
Why?
Because I got a car. And you know who else got car? No one else. So I would say that this serving just fall upon me. I tell you. When I started serving, I was not even a Christian. I was serving.
But you feel happily driving people, right?
What can I say? Say no.
Why you don't feel like saying no that time?
Ayo, come on, please. Wait,
Why,
I can't.
why not? No, I don't want to drive. It's my car. I don't want to fetch you. Bye.
I mean, I can say that, but then I'm this kind of person. I'm a kind and loving person.
Yes,
That is against my nature. No, I'm just saying. I'm just,
wait, stop.
I'm just trying
Why you
to.
retreat, bro?
I want to share my story. Can I finish my story? Thank you. So tiring. Anyways, this is the bad side of the serving of the story, which I will go to in later. But I'm trying to say my good experience. Like when I fetch people around, I think I just get closer with people, and I like I don't know. I just feel like driving, and then after that I was also an usher because the requirement is basically none. There's no technical requirements.
We should A to B.
Yeah, I mean, don't need to be tall or whatever it is. It's just, you want to do and you do. So, but the only requirement of being usher is to get to church earlier. That's what I remember. So, but I really like the days and when I'm a bit more innocent and naive when I serve in a usher because I just need to do whatever I've been told, right? I don't know, change the toilet rolls lah. Look at the CCTV screen for the whole night lah. I don't know why lah, but
Security.
yeah, but you just do, because you
we
feel like
were
you want to contribute. But it's a nice time, and I think the bondage and the relationship between each other that we serve together, especially during events. Serving in usher during events is a very nice thing. I really like to become the security guy. I do not know why. I mean, I
never see you wear the Westbund.
because you never see me outside. You are inside at the aircon room, enjoy.
That 3
And
years old,
outside, rain, shine, I need to wear the vest and torchlight, check car. You see? You never know because you only talk. I do.
I've been.
Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I like this kind of experience.
Why you judge me? Okay.
Why you interrupt me?
Bad experience.
Okay.
Sorry?
Never
Now,
mind,
what about your experience?
Okay.
Say
Okay.
why you laugh?
In the
Why you laugh
church,
2 times?
in
Why you laugh 3
aircon,
times?
in the
Why you laugh
church,
4 times?
That's what I was saying.
in the church, in aircon, in the church.
The first time I experienced serving is when I wasn't a Christian.
I thought you said it. You're serving on basis.
Yeah, but before that, it's much. Shouldn't say it should be close to that. When I was 16, right, I went to my first ever youth camp in the Anglican Diocese, called IG Impact Generation. It's wearing a black shirt. It's an English camp, and I cannot speak English. But very interestingly, we had one community service. I was very impressed on that moment because we were helping the people who were staying near the not river, the sea one, the sea house.
Wait. Staying near the sea.
Not like Seawalk.
Seaside.
Oh,
Seaside.
seas. Oh,
What
okay.
call?
Seaside.
Houses on stilts.
Call?
Live by the beach.
Oh, something like that.
I want to use beach house lah, but it's
beach house.
Okay,
overstatement
so their bridge, right, is built by the wood one, and it's spoiled already one. They cannot walk very safely.
So you're there to
what we do
rebuild
is that
the bridge.
the whole camp, right, the youth, they just work together with the community to rebuild the bridge. I was just carrying the wood to fix one by one. I was very impressed. I was only 16, but I didn't know that I can contribute to make people's life easier. In that, and then a bunch of youth, those high school people, we don't know what to do. You just follow Koko Jeje, just bring wood there, and then knock, and then move
so
on.
your kemahiran hidup buat you lah.
And that moment, I felt something different that I didn't know. My serving can make people happy. I think that can make people relief. That makes that really a good experience for me. That can, even it's raining, we stop when it was rain. Yeah, it rain a little bit. No tsunami. Otherwise, you won't see me here. You see me in heaven.
Anyways.
So that was my very good impression on what it means serving to a community that I experienced early in my. Even I'm not Christian yet at the time.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was still a very young youth. Yeah. So why not now we go to share about your bad experience, like what you have experienced now, or maybe Victor can go first.
Me again?
Yeah. Always you start
You
first.
first lah.
Me again. I just share about Alex first.
I first lah. I don't have. No lah.
Bad experience.
Bad experience. It's very hard to pinpoint.
Or maybe a very struggle experience that you feel like hopefully this won't happen again.
I have to be really honest. I do not have this kind of experience that I want to feel. I don't want this happen again because I think I always had this I don't know, expectation or certain understanding whereby when you work and serve together, there's bound to be friction. And I don't know, I don't have very bad experience in serving, but if you say what are the one of the downside is maybe when no one wants to do that particular thing, and I mean for me, what I want to say is that if you have to do it alone, that will be quite a downside for me.
Okay.
You get what I mean? I don't know, maybe I'm a very relational person.
Relational person.
Relational person, meaning
Your hairstyle is good lah.
I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that I don't mind if we go through tough time and struggling together as a community. But if you want me to do it alone, which I think
Feel a bit
maybe
sad,
I have one or two experiences, I cannot pinpoint.
Okay.
But I to be honest, in my whole journey until this point, the only downside is that sometimes I feel lonely if I need to do the thing alone. Let's say I was a cell leader for quite some years now. There is a period of my time serving as a cell leader. It's very lonely. Because you're bound to take care, you expect to take care of your members, whether it's fetching, asking them for dinner, preparing for the talk, taking care of them, whatever it is, right? You feel like you're doing that alone, sort of. And that is, there's a downtime, I would say.
Okay. I had an experience. I remember that when I transit from college student to working outside. I start working outside full time permanently, and then while still having my part time study. So that was a transition I had. I'm very stressful, and there's one particular moment I felt that I do as much as I can. I fetch the member, I send them. If they need any help, I just help them. They need food, I buy food. They need to go this church to church, I send. And they want to buy something, I go with them. If they eat more, I drink with them. drink 飲茶 mama. not alcohol. At that time we are still very not that rich. So, but I got a member that I feel like no matter what I do, the members still not very cooperative. And to a point, I was breaking down. And in one night of the prayer meeting, right, I went to the prayer meeting. I sat there, and then I start praying and said, why? I'll keep asking questions. Why my member want to do this to me? Why everything during the meeting or doing anything, it will be interrupted.
Can we ask what he did or what she did? What the person did?
I'm saying.
Okay.
Like always not interrupt, not cooperative, and like everything also need to fulfill your own taste. You don't care about how people feel and so on. I was like, why so many patterns? I was so frustrated. Until that night, I was during the prayer meeting. I was breaking down. I went up. I asked for prayer, and then he prayed for me actually. But eventually nothing. No, he or else I forgot already. But actually nothing. No one prayed for me because they prayed for me, but I couldn't listen what level they say, because that was my first time. I kneel down. I cry like a baby. I cry like mad. I cry, tears. Whatever they pray, I cannot listen. I just tear off, and then I say, why so struggle? Why become cell leader so 惨 one? Why they cannot understand? Why cannot just step back and then just for the good of others and not just put yourself in the center, put your needs in the center. Everything also need to follow you want to go eat this one and cannot eat that one. Why everyone must listen to you? Why not just 讓步啦, step back a little bit and then just move it together? Why don't do that? I cannot understand. So I was having a very hard time. I was almost want to give up to serve to the group as a cell leader. But ultimately, that was my bad experience when I felt like what he said. I felt alone. Seems like nothing can change, and I cannot leave my cell leader roles because I think it's not responsible, right? But then what is the way out? I don't have a way out.
Yeah.
But at the end, I found that was my bad experience. But ultimately, I found that actually the member has a different way of loving others.
Wow.
But actually, that member also has actually quite caring, but in a very different way. That's I only found out after 1 or 2 years when I get to know that member long enough. So, but that was my breaking point in my leadership role as a cell leader that time lah. So yeah.
What a twist.
Yeah. So we still friends. We still continue to come to church and until like 10 years.
Wow, what a heartwarming story.
How about you, blue guy?
All right.
I'm blue.
Many of my bad experiences
One enough.
One enough.
tied back to heroism, so I'm not going to mention that. If you want to know what is heroism, go back to our previous episodes.
You mean
As
carry.
the president, like as the president of an event or the leader of the usher team, I will always have the sense of responsibility to shoulder the whole burden myself and not pass it down. And then when people want to carry the burden along, I would say thank you to their politeness.
Basically, you say don't need lah.
Yeah,
don't need so many flowers lah. Basically, you say don't need
so I
lah.
say don't need.
Don't come near me. I want to do this myself.
That gave me a lot of bad experiences. But when you talk about cell leader, there's also other reasons of bad
Also cell leader.
experiences.
Aiyo.
And I think we will talk about that when we talk about stereotyping. I think I will say that. But I have a funny experience is this. As a cell leader, I was very young. One of the first
But
cell
no
group
people want to be
I
cell leader,
lead
you.
in FCC. No, it's funny story. It's not a bad experience to me. It's a funny story.
I'm asking that.
There was this one girl in my cell group.
Oh,
Ui,
yeah.
girl, pretty or not?
Depends. Different people will see beauty differently.
Anyways.
Anyway, so the thing about her that I could remember vividly is I already drove to the university door, supposed to pick her up to church. And,
No, picking girls up lah.
and she's not ready, and she also doesn't say that she doesn't want to go to church. So I had to spend half an hour in the car texting her to convince her to bujuk her, or
What's bujuk,
to
ah?
go to
Convince her lah.
convince her to go to church.
Why would you just leave her? Leh?
I'm a cell leader. Heroism.
You thought you can save
But
her.
but that made me reminded another good experience that I forgot to share.
Eh,
Was
that's all for the experience. That's all.
that's
the
the
bad
bad
one.
one.
No, in the end, the girl got go or not?
Go.
Wow.
But
Funny meh?
I spent half
That's
an
funny
hour
part,
there, and at that time I'm a very legalistic Christian. I don't like to be late, and she made me late for half an hour.
Then what's the point? Still ask her go.
Because as a cell leader, I must make sure my members go to church to listen
But
to
you're
the
conflicting
word
with
of
your
the Lord.
legalism.
Applaudismo.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it was a bad experience somehow, but funny one. But it reminded me of a good experience that I should share.
Funny one or not?
For me, it's funny.
Where is the funny part?
I don't even.
No, the good one, the good one.
I don't
the
even
good
use half an hour to convince my wife. All right. Anyway, the good one
World War
is
III.
there was a point where I was a cell leader fetching my members, and again, I'm the only one with car in that group.
one. Oh my god.
Family might not be supportive financially, and they are asking me why am I fetching so many. And it got to a point where it was God's blessing that the cell group grew so big. I had around 14 to 15 members. So it got to a point where I need to fetch 3 rounds per trip. In a sense, before church, I need to fetch 3 rounds because my car can only fetch 4 person. So I have to fetch 3 rounds. So I start fetching very, very early. And then after that, even after church, I send them to dinner place. The first batch, come back, second batch, third batch. The moment I drop off the third batch, I fetch the first batch home. So end of the thing, I didn't even eat dinner, but they are all taken care.
You were full of joy lah that time.
It was stressful, but the good thing is, one day, without me asking, one of the member just offered to gather those staying at his areas together to take taxi to go to church. And to take taxi to go dinner and stuff like that. So without needing me to voice out my frustration or anything, I would say the Lord has impressed upon him more.
Yeah.
And that was a big encouragement for me lah. So
That's
to
a
say,
nice,
yeah.
that's a nice story. I think I remember what happened that day.
Really? What, you were the one that helped him?
No, not me.
Why
not
don't
me.
you fix the second round?
Because I said I'm not a believer yet. What can you ask me do?
Got one round very good already.
Thank God for one round. I think this is a very good wrap for this first part. And in the coming second part, we will talk about different topics, particularly the stereotyping in serving. And then we end with a very good discussion about serving. How is not serving, is it a bad thing, or can we not serve at all? So we will talk about that in the second part, but please stay tuned. And
The interesting part. The
very
second
interesting
part.
part.
No. Equally interesting part.
Okay.
Equally interesting part.
So do
you are here already.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, share to your friends or your members or leaders if they have this curiosity about in the meantime, they don't think about their serving journey, how to progress further. And just stay tuned for our more the coming videos, the second part, and we'd love to see you. So, see ya.
See you next week.
You share next week?
Maybe the week after. I don't know. We'll see.
So, see ya.